Um, I think few people more might join. Dr. Pooja, please switch on your video and audio.
Yeah.
Usually the people join in between.
Okay.
So, I welcome you to the forum. This is a group which we started few months back. It is called Women Power, and you are already a part of it. And the purpose is that women should not feel alone. They should feel connected. They should be able to help each other in any perspective or in any area of expertise. And today I welcome you to the group, and I welcome you to the talk. And we all wanted to understand what is the right way to take care of skin. There are so many products in the market. We don't understand them. We just buy it off the shelf. And many times they are not needed, right? So we just want to learn about your perspective, right? What a skincare is all about, and what is the right way to maintain a good skin hygiene and hair hygiene. I would just switch off my video. I'll give you the stage to you. Please share your screen and maybe we can start the talk.
Okay, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Shweta. Thank you for making this group. It is indeed very helpful. I have been part of it right from the start. And thanks for having me here on this forum to discuss this important topic. I hope my tips will be helpful for you all. So you all may ask, why are we discussing skincare when we have such vital organs? So why are we talking about skin? Because skincare is not superficial. It is healthcare. When you have beautiful skin, it's a sign that you have a healthy body and a healthy mind. So we are all into trends. So healthy skin is always in, and filters are great, but skincare is better. And another benefit, if you focus on skincare, you really don't need much makeup. So here's another advantage. A disclaimer here, I'm not a beautician, I'm a doctor. So I'll talk about scientific evidence. I won't be able to advise you which facial to go for, a diamond or a gold. Moreover, I won't be talking about any brand names. So what is our common perspective? Our common perspective is fair is beautiful. India has an obsession with skin whitening. So you can see various ads, especially the Fair and Lovely. I didn't want to take the name, but I can't help it. So they were the ones who started all this with the fairness obsession. So this is not what I feel about skin, and my perspective is different. So this is because the qualities of beautiful skin, if you talk about the qualities, fairness is not one of the component. So a beautiful skin would have a good tone. So it would have a homogeneous tone. and whether it is black or it is white or it is brown. So the texture should be smooth. It should have adequate moisture. It should be firm and smooth. So stay unfair and you are beautiful in your own skin. So what does skincare include? I'll be talking about care of the body, face and neck, hands and feet, hair care, nail care, a slide about the lips and mucosa, mainly the genitalia. So what's most important is personal hygiene when you talk about skin. So what is the importance of bath? So it is important because we have dirt, we have bacteria over the body. So we need to remove these, and that is why a bath is important. How frequent it should be? Once a day is sufficient, but people who sweat a lot, it's recommended to have a bath in the evening as well, because there are certain diseases like fungal infections that they get propagated if you are sweaty and there is humidity. And type of water, like people would boast of I have bath with cold water, I have bath with hot water almost every day, and that's nothing to boast of. You should use normal water, lukewarm water, depending on the temperature. So what to use? Soap or a shower gel. So soap is adequate for a bath. You don't need to go for fancy shower gels, fragrance shower gels. These are not required. A simple basic soap. What you have to keep in mind, it should be pH balanced. So I would recommend a glycerine soap without taking names here. So simple soaps available in the market that are pH balanced. Glycerine soap will provide adequate moisture to your body. Now, is using loofah and scrubbers recommended? Not recommended, for the simple reason that these themselves are not taken care of, and they can get dirty. These are not washed frequently. So if you can take care of the loofah as well, washing it daily, then it's fine. And as long as you're not vigorously using it, so it's fine to use a loofah with gentle strokes. Otherwise, you can just use your hand to apply the soap. What is most important here is moisturizing after bath, which many of us skip. We are always running out of time. So just take 5 minutes to moisturize your skin. This much you should do if you love your skin. So moisturize with what? Again, you don't need to go for fancy creams and expensive products. You can go for simple moisturizers, which I'll be talking about later. And if you don't have any moisturizer, just go for a plain coconut oil. No need to warm it, no need to put anything in it, just plain coconut oil that is there in the kitchen. What I'll recommend is do not go for any other oils like mustard oil. These cause pigmentation. So mustard oil is not recommended at all. So talking about the face, I would like to state here that face and neck should be treated as one unit. So it's not that you apply some product on the face and not on the neck, because then they'll appear differently. So all these products we talk about, they have to be applied both on the face and the neck. First of all, one has to identify the skin type. What type of skin we have. So normal skin, which is very rare. Dry skin, in which you see flakes of dryness on the skin. An oily skin, when you see it's shiny, you see, oil on the cheeks, on the forehead. And then there's a combination skin where the T-zone is oily and rest of the face is normal or dry. So first you must identify your skin type. And there is another type of skin, this is really important, that flushes red after cleansing or just after, facing wind, chilly wind. You use any skincare product or cosmetics, it leads to a burning sensation. You have a frequent urge to itch, and there are flakes on the skin. So this is known as sensitive skin. So identifying a sensitive skin is important because you need to be very careful with what products are you going to use on your skin. So what all do we need for facial care, skin care? We all believe number of products, we collect the products, we accumulate, and especially on the weekends, we shop a lot. and we don't make a consistent routine. That's because we have collected so much and it's difficult to use. So please remember, less is more. The less products you have, the better it is. So what do you need exactly for facial care? It's just a cleanser, a moisturizing cream, and a sunscreen. That's it. These three things. So starting with a cleanser. Why do we need a cleanser and how frequently it should be used? So we need a cleanser because it removes the dirt and bacteria. And it also makes it easier for other creams to penetrate. Supposing your doctor has advised you something, or you want to use sunscreen or anything. So it is good that you have a clear skin, because then that cream will be able to penetrate it. And how much? Twice a day is sufficient. Unless you sweat a lot, then you may do it for another time. Otherwise, twice a day is sufficient for you. Now, how do we find the right cleanser? First, as I told you, identifying your skin type. So if you have a normal skin, you needn't worry so much. So if you have a dry skin, you should go in for a gentle cleanser. If your cleanser is making skin even drier, that means you need to change it. And if your face is oily, you have to look for face washes and cleansers that contain certain components like, hydroxy acids to deal with the oil. So if you're using a face wash and at the end of the day, like after face wash again, you feel there is still oil, you feel the face is oily, that means you need to again change to a better product. So you need to work out which product to use. So it doesn't mean that you need to increase the frequency, you just need to change the product. People with sensitive skin, as I said, they need to be very careful. They have to avoid all sorts of alcohol and exfoliation products. So what are the steps of cleansing? Very simple. You wet your face with lukewarm water. You use your fingertips like this to apply the cleanser, and you gently do these movements and just lightly rub the skin. Not exactly rub the skin, just, gentle, soft movements. Pat dry with a soft towel. Apply moisturizer afterwards. Be very gentle when you are using anything around the eyes, whether it is a cleanser or a moisturizer. You should use the ring finger because the ring finger is the weakest. So the pressure is less. So after this, you need a good moisturizer. So all your investment should be on a good moisturizer. This is the most important part. So why you need to moisturize your skin? Because it maintains hydration, it keeps the skin soft and supple, it has an anti-aging effect, it repairs the skin, and it maintains the tone. So a good moisturizer is really important. So again, your moisturizer will depend on the skin type, whether it is a dry skin, an oily, or a sensitive skin. A dry skin will need richer preparations, more of creamy, buttery preparations, whereas oily skin, you need to go for gel or lotion formulations, which are less sticky. In case you have a sensitive skin, you might require advice from a dermatologist who will prescribe you creams that repair the skin. These contain various proteins, ceramides, and all that repair your skin. So what is the sequence? You would ask that there's so many products. What is the exact sequence? Do I have to use all these? So first you wash your face. Then if the doctor has prescribed you any treatment, maybe if it is for acne or for eczema or anything, so that has to be applied after washing the face or the body. Then you apply the moisturizer or the sunscreen. And later on, in the end, makeup if desired and you're going out. So that has to be in the end. Now coming to the third aspect, that is sunscreen. This is very important because we here in India have misconceptions about use of sunscreens. We feel we do not need so much of sunscreen because our skin is not prone to skin cancer. That is true. The Indian skin is not prone to skin cancer, but there are other harmful effects of sun, which we need to deal with. So as we know, the sun rays, there's an entire spectrum from visible, infrared, and where we have the ultraviolet radiation. So in ultraviolet, UVC is absorbed by the ozone layer. And then we have the UVB and UVA reaching the earth. Now, UVB and UVA are harmful for the skin. UVA penetrates deeper. These are called the aging rays. All these wrinkles, blemishes, this is caused by the UVA rays. Whereas UVB rays, they are the burning rays. They are responsible for burn, skin burn that happens after intense sun exposure. So you need protection from both. Now, indoor lights, for example, the artificial lights, there is a wide range of spectrum. We have infrared lamps. They also have a component of UV light and visible light, and these can also cause harmful effects. So we need protection from these also, although not as much as compared to UV, but depending on the, your usage of laptops, staying in fluorescent lamps and indoors. So it will depend on that. So who needs a sunscreen? So basically everyone needs a sunscreen. It is a misconception that sunscreens are required by few people. No, it's needed by one and all. There are three factors which you need to know when you're buying a sunscreen. One is the sun protection factor. The other is the water resistant and the spectrum. So I'll discuss these three labels that are there on sunscreens and what all you need to know about these. So this is the label of a sunscreen. You will have the name, then it will be mentioned whether it is broad spectrum or not, whether it is protecting against UVA and UVB, both. So broad spectrum is one that protects against both. Then water resistant or very water resistant. Water resistant protects your skin when you are in water, or you're swimming or excessively sweating for like 40 minutes, whereas very water resistant will protect it for 80 minutes. And after that, you need to reapply that. So SPF. Please remember that SPF, the numbers we talk about, it measures the UVB protection and not UVA. So it is protecting against skin burn. An SPF of 15 is blocking 93% of the sun's UV rays, UVB rays, and SPF 30 is blocking 97% of sun's UVB rays. So which one should we use? Should we actually be using a 50 SPF, which only blocks 98%? So what is recommended is an SPF of 30 or more is adequate for our skin. And there is no sunscreen that can filter 100% of the UV rays. So if you come across that label on any of the sunscreens or in any advertisement, it is not true, because there is no sunscreen that can filter 100%. Even those with an SPF of 50 will block 98 to 99%, not more than that. So we have another label here that is mentioned. It is the PA rating, that is protection grade from UVA. Like I said, you need protection from UVB and UVA. So it is depicted as +1 to 4+. And what is recommended is higher than 2+. Now, water resistant, as I said, will stay on wet or sweaty skin for a while before you need to reapply. Rest of the sunscreen, you need to reapply every 2 hours. But a water resistant one, you will need to apply after 40 minutes, and a very highly water resistant one for after 80 minutes. So if you're going for a swimming, then depending on, like you are swimming for a long period of time, then you go for a highly water resistant so that you don't need to reapply it fast. And it's a myth that there is any waterproof sunscreen. These are not waterproof, these are water resistant. Now, as I said, broad spectrum will protect you against UVA and UVB. Now we have various sunscreens that will mention VL and IR. So VL will protect against visible light and IR will protect against infrared. So we don't need to go for all these unless you have light sensitivity, you have an eruption, your skin is sensitive to light. So in those cases, you really need to go for these. Otherwise, simple broad spectrum sunscreen that is giving you UV protection is good enough for you. Now, most important type of sunscreen, because when you read the labels, you see so many components over there, and it just leaves you puzzled, and you cannot decide which one to go for, and then you fall for the marketing gimmicks. So broadly, there are two: physical and chemical. The difference is physical works like a shield. It sits on the surface of your skin and deflects the sun rays. Whereas chemical, it works as a sponge. It absorbs the sun rays. So when you're looking for a physical sunscreen, you have to look for active ingredients like zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, whereas chemical will have all these oxybenzone, avobenzone, and all. So one needs to go for a physical sunscreen if you have a sensitive skin. And you can go for a chemical if you do not have a sensitive skin. But a physical sunscreen leaves a white residue, whereas a chemical one is easier to rub into the skin and does not leave a white residue. So when to apply sunscreen? 15 to 20 minutes before stepping out, because this is the time taken for absorption by the skin. How to apply the sunscreen? This is the dot method. You apply dots over your forehead, over the cheek, over the nose, chin, neck, and you just do simple circular motions to apply it. How much to use? Now, this is a very important point, because generally people use sunscreen in very small quantity. A survey has shown that people use half the amount that is recommended because they don't have knowledge about it. So people tend to use it like a normal cream. No, sunscreen has to be used in adequate amount. If you're using it for your face, then a teaspoon of sunscreen is enough. And if you're using it for your body, supposing you're on a holiday and you're going to a beach and you need to apply over the whole body. So a short glass of sunscreen, that is around 28 grams of sunscreen, would be needed for the whole body. And please remember, it needs to be reapplied after every 2 hours. If you are not sweating or you're not in water, and after sweating or swimming, depending on the sunscreen you are using, whether it is water resistant or highly water resistant, and also after toweling off, you need to reapply it. So if you are using sunscreen, you must know about these basics. Using it in the wrong way is just like wasting money on these expensive products. So when to use? All days when you're going outside, even cloudy days, people with sensitive, like light sensitive skin, need to use it throughout the day, even to protect from visible light indoors. And please remember, extra precaution is needed when you're near water, snow, or sand, as these reflect the damaging rays of the sun. So you have to be extra careful when you're on a holiday. Along with sunscreen, please do not forget, seek shade wherever possible. Use a sun protective clothing, that is full sleeve clothes. Vitamin D supplementation is required. You may use a broad brimmed hat and sunglasses. Now, which formulation to use, whether to go for cream, gel, lotions, because there are so many available. Cream is preferable for dry skin. Gel is preferable for hairy areas, scalp, like, people who are bald, they need to apply over the scalp also. Male chest. Sticks is useful around the eyes, though you may not buy it separately. Sprays are easy to use in children. But the thing is, when you're using a spray, you're not using enough of the product. So you have to be careful that you use enough according to the instructions mentioned. And it's important that you do not inhale it. Do not apply it near heat, open flame, or while smoking. Now in the market, when you go, there'll be combination sunscreens. So when you go to buy a foundation, they'll offer you sunscreen with cosmetics. With the foundation, you have SPF this and that. And you have sunscreen along with the moisturizers. These are convenient to use, but please remember, moisturizer doesn't need to be applied every 2 hours. Okay, cosmetics don't need to be applied every 2 hours. So when you're using a combination, please remember, if you're outdoors, you need to reapply the sunscreen. With insect repellents, it's strictly not recommended, because sunscreens need to be applied liberally and often, whereas insect repellents are to be used sparingly and less often. Now, understanding labels, few labels I talked about, like broad spectrum and the UVA protection, SPF, PA rating and all. So there is another label that's mentioned which says sport. So it is water resistant. People who are engaged in sports, they sweat a lot and they need to use water resistant sunscreen. Then baby. So in a baby product or products for children, you need to look for active ingredients, titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. These are physical sunscreens. They're less likely to irritate. And please remember, sunscreen use is recommended for more than 6 months. In infants less than 6 months, it's not recommended. Now, for sensitive skin, when you have a sensitive skin, please be careful. Do not buy products that contain various fragrance, oils, PABA, or active ingredients found in chemical sunscreen because these will irritate your skin. Now, there are certain myths. Higher SPF does not allow you to spend, please remember, it doesn't allow you to spend extra time outdoors without reapplication. So it is just functioning more effectively by blocking more sun rays, but it doesn't allow you to spend extra time outdoors. Shelf life is generally 3 years if your bottle is not mentioned it. So when you have used it, please, you have to discard it after 3 years and don't use it beyond expiry. Change in color and consistency of product. So it should not be used. Please discard it. Now, very important here. Now I talked about cleanser, moisturizer, and sunscreen. What is more important than that would be a diet, good water intake. You have had sessions on diets by Dr. Geetu. So those were very helpful. Good amount of vegetables, fruits. She must have told you good amount of proteins. So vegetables and fruits, they contain antioxidants. So they help in repair of the skin. And a good sleep. Now I'll talk about how to care about particular types of skin like dry skin, oily skin, and sensitive skin. So few points. If you have a dry skin, keep your baths and shower short. Use warm water. Don't use hot water. Use a mild cleanser. That is for your body I'm talking about. Avoid using too much of it. And please don't go for the misconception that the more lather you have, the more cleansing, the more good it is. No, it's not that way. Gently pat the skin dry. Don't rub it vigorously. Apply moisturizer after bath, and moisturizers are most effective when you apply them after bath because they trap the moisture which you have gained after the bath. And in cases of dry skin, you need to use more of ointment and creams than lotions. These are more oily. Wear a soft fabric, wear 100% cotton. And if it is winters and you need to wear wool, use a soft fabric underneath. Hands need more moisturizer, more frequent, especially in this COVID era when you're using a lot of sanitizers. They cause dryness of the skin. It causes eczema. So please use a moisturizer. So when the sanitizer has evaporated, you can use a moisturizer. And if you're engaged in activities involving a lot of wet work and all, please use gloves if you have dry skin. And if your skin is very, very dry and it's not responding to all these measures, then it could signify a medical condition. So you need to consult a dermatologist. And please remember that in winters, you have to stay warm without cozying up to fireplaces or heaters. These will dry your skin further. And you can use a humidifier. Now, when you have a dry skin, you look for products like these: jojoba oil, dimethicone, glycerine, hyaluronic acid. Please don't get puzzled seeing all this. So when you have a dry skin, these products like, shea butter, these are more buttery and more oily, and these are good for your skin. And you need to avoid products that contain alcohol, various fragrances, deodorant soaps, and alpha hydroxy acids or retinoids. These make your skin drier. So coming to oily skin. So oily skin, one problem that happens is acne breakouts. But the good news is that oil preserves the skin. Oil skin is thicker and oily skin gets fewer wrinkles. So that's the good thing about having an oily skin. So what precautions to take? Wash face every morning, in the evening, and after exercise. Choose skincare products labeled oil-free and non-comedogenic. Non-comedogenic meaning they have less propensity to cause acne or breakouts. Use a gentle foaming face wash. Don't use oil-based cleansers. Do apply moisturizer. it's a misconception that oily skin, they don't need a moisturizer. They do need, but a different one. You need to use a sunscreen. You should use oil-free, water-based makeup. Whenever you go to purchase makeup, please look for oil-free products. Never sleep with your makeup on, because this will clog your pores and lead to breakouts. You can use a blotting paper. You can gently press against the face to wipe off the excess oil. You can leave it for a few seconds, but don't rub it. And don't touch your face throughout the day. Now, aging skin. What all precautions we need to take care of. There are two types of aging. One is the chronological, that happens with age. The other is photoaging, that is happening with the sun exposure. So what are the important things you need to take care of? Seek shade from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The sun's rays are the maximum. So if possible, avoid this time of the day. Apply moisturizer every day. Wash away dirt and grime twice a day with a cleanser. Cover up in style. You can use scarves, or you could even use gloves while driving. That's a good idea, using cotton gloves while driving to cover up. And sunscreen, definitely. Stop smoking, eat healthy food, and get enough sleep. These are the simple anti-aging skincare tips that you need to follow. And how to select anti-aging product. This is very difficult for the common people, because there are so many available in the market and they offer so many promises that it's really confusing. So please start with the sunscreen and a moisturizer. You will be surprised to know that the secret ingredient in many anti-aging products is a moisturizer. And all these market products, they contain niacinamide. So these are just moisturizers. Treat your aging skin concern. So what is the skin concern you are dealing with? Are you dealing with dark spots? Are you dealing with wrinkles? You need to see a dermatologist for this, because if a cream is promising you that it will treat your wrinkles and it will treat your dark spots, it's not true. One cream cannot offer you so much, and then you will use multiple creams, one for the wrinkles, one for the spots. They may not work, and they're more likely to irritate your skin. Using more products can irritate the skin. Like I said, less is more. So this can cause even more aging. And buy product formulated for your skin type. Always keep that in mind. Read product labels, select product that offers you all of the following, like hypoallergenic and non-comedogenic, especially if you have an oily skin. And please have realistic expectations. Please don't fall for these marketing tactics which say fairer in 3 days and shiny skin, brighter skin in 10 days, in 2 weeks. These are all just gimmicks. And please select product within your price range. We have a misconception that we buy expensive products, anti-aging products are expensive. No, you can buy it within your price range. You don't need to go for expensive products and fancy serums. So generally it is written on products clinically proven. Please remember, this doesn't mean that the product has undergone clinical trials. It just means that product was given to consumers to try. And how do you maximize the results? Start with one product. Don't start with multiple products. Test the product before applying it on your face. You do this is called as a repeat open application test. These are recommended by doctors. You could use the product on your inner fora twice a day for 5 days. If you don't develop any reaction, any redness or burning, please go ahead with the product and you can use it safely on the face. And stop using it if it is burning you, burning the skin. Follow the directions as mentioned. Use consistently. And because it won't show effect in few days, it takes consistent use to show effects. And protect from the sun, use moisturizer. It doesn't mean like you start using an anti-aging product and you give up on the moisturizer, you give up on the sunscreen. No, it won't work. And never perform do-it-yourself cosmetic procedures at home, whether it is comedone extraction, removing the comedons, and peeling. Nowadays you have home peels and whatnot. Please don't do it without supervision. Now coming to hands and feet, we take very good care of our face. We don't care much about hands and feet. That goes for many of us. So hands and feet require more of moisturizers because they're more prone to dryness. Like I said, hands are more prone for dryness because we're using sanitizers. So nowadays we even need more of it. Then cracked feet. So if you have cracked feet, please don't use a mechanical scrubber vigorously and cause bleeding. What you could do is just soak your feet in warm water, and you can apply any moisturizer that contains petroleum jelly, or you can get a foot cream prescribed by a doctor. They'll generally prescribe you urea based creams. These are used for the feet. Now coming to hair care, we all are worried about our hair. There is some problem or the other with all the women, including me. One question we all ask is whether oiling is needed or not. So when you have an oily scalp, you really do not need oiling your hair. Unless you have an oily scalp and a dry strands. Your strands are dry, your scalp is oily. Then you can go ahead with oiling your hair, but don't use it like overnight. Just use it for 32 minutes to 1 hour before shampooing your hair. And what does oiling do? Oiling improves the microcirculation of your scalp, so that is beneficial for your hair. And oiling the strands, oil acts as a conditioner. So there are various types of oil. Let me tell you, there is no scientific evidence that one oil is superior to the other. There is only a single study, as far as I can remember, which showed that coconut oil can penetrate the hair, other oils cannot. And there is not much work that has been done. So scientific literature here is lacking. So if you're oiling the hair, it is just to improve the microcirculation of your scalp and for conditioning your strands. And what to use? You can go for simple coconut oil. Please don't go for mustard oil. And you don't need to go for fancy almond oil, olive oil. A simple coconut oil is good. You might ask like cold pressed and virgin and all. No, you can just go for simple ones. Shampoo. Now, which one to use? If possible, go for SLS free. SLS is a detergent that is sodium lauryl sulfate. These cause the foaming when you shampoo, and paraben free. So go for SLS free and paraben free products as far as possible. So it may be okay to use SLS product once in a while, but don't use it routinely. How frequent? It depends on your scalp type. People who have oily scalp need to frequently shampoo their hair. It is a misconception that the more I shampoo, the more hair fall I have. That's not true, because there is a cycle of hair. There's anagen phase, that's a growing phase. You have the catagen in which it is involuting, and then you have the shedding phase or the telogen. Hair go through these cycles, and the telogen hair is the shedding hair that is shed off. So this is a myth that shampooing more will cause more hair loss. If you shampoo once in a week, so the kind of hair fall you will have after 7 days will be much more. So shampoo on scalp and not on the strands. Like, you can do it on the strands, but don't concentrate so much on the strands, because it is the scalp that needs cleansing. And shampoo should be followed by a conditioner, depending on whichever suits your hair. Conditioner should be applied on roots, not on the scalp. Otherwise, it will cause that perception of thin, limp hair. What does a conditioner do? It increases the shine, it decreases the static electricity, decreases the frizziness, and it improves the strength of your hair. So do condition your hair. Habits that damage the hair. This is very important. Like shampooing vigorously into the length of hair is not required. It just strips your hair of the extra, water that is needed, hydration. So skipping the conditioner, drying hair vigorously with a towel. This is not needed. You should just, you can tie your hair in a microfiber towel and wrap it up, and later on just let it leave it to air dry. Brushing your hair when wet hair is more brittle, so it can lead to breakage of your hair shafts. Using a blow dryer, hot combs, hot curling irons. Once in a while you can use it when you have party and all, but using it frequently is not recommended. It is definitely damaging. Using styling products frequently, wearing hair extensions continuously, and too much traction in your hairstyle. If you have a hairstyle that is causing too much traction, you will be prone to more of alopecia, that is hair loss. So you shouldn't be practicing that. You should tie your hair loosely. Now, people who do swimming, so what precautions you take, like I recommended for the skin, you need a water resistant sunscreen. So for the hair, what do you need to do? Condition before swimming. So you can use oil as a conditioner, like you can apply oil on your hair. That will be really good if you can do that. You should wear a cap that is provides good protection. The water used in swimming pools is chlorinated. It is really, damaging for your hair. So there are various swimmers shampoo available nowadays. It's okay if you can buy these, but it's okay if you can use a normal shampoo. But remember to condition your hair after shampooing. Now, hair color. So many women use hair color. It is a need for premature hair graying, and as you age, you need the hair color. So there are lots available in the market. Please beware of these marketing gimmicks. They will mention ammonia free. Ammonia free is not the only thing you need. There are other things beside ammonia that are damaging, like PPD, various diamines. So it should be actually be chemical free, and there are very few that are chemical free. So if you are a person who has had an allergic reaction to a hair dye, please consult your doctor, your dermatologist. They can prescribe you safer options. Or even if you don't have any allergic reaction and you're not keen on using these chemicals a lot, which is a wise choice, you should go for vegetable hair colors. So vegetable hair colors are henna based or indigo based. So you can go for these unless you have allergy to henna, which is a little rare. Don't go for black henna because these again have PPDs, coloring agents. So it is safe to use these. The only disadvantage is they don't give you that kind of blackness which you have with all these chemical products. So you get a brown, dark brown, little orangish hue. So if you're okay with it, you please go for these. And these need to be reapplied because these aren't strong enough. And if you are using a marketing dye, like a chemical dye, please test it first. Like I said, on your inner forearm, apply it twice a day for 5 days. And if you don't get any reaction over it, then you can go ahead. Or for a hair dye, you can use it on the neck, back of the neck somewhere. You can just test it. Then lip care. Use lip balm. Use a non-irritating one. A lipstick should offer you hydration. Lip balm, if you have dry chapped lips, should be used several times a day and before bed. But if you have normal lips, just once a day, twice a day is sufficient. Very, very dry lips, white petroleum jelly is the best. Avoid products that contain camphor, eucalyptus oil, fragrance, and phenol. Use hypoallergenic products. Skin over the lips is sensitive. You can go for sun protection, that is recommended, like minimum SPF of 30. Drink plenty of water. Stop licking your lips. Stop biting your lips or picking at your lips. Nail care, a word about it. Tips for healthy nails. Keep your nails clean and healthy. That's the most important thing you can do. Do not bite your fingernails. Do not remove cuticle during manicure. While you go for a manicure, they'll tell you they'll remove your cuticle every time. Cuticle acts as a protection for your nail. So please don't go for this. You can skip this step. Please tell them that you don't want to get the cuticle removed. Trim your toenails. It avoids injury. Ingrown toenails, people have the habit of doing it themselves, digging into the nails. That causes even more injury. Wear shoes that fit properly. Alternate pair of shoes you wear every day. Wear flip-flops at pools and public showers. And any discoloration in the nail, like yellow or green discoloration, show to your doctor. It's a myth that white spots on nails are due to calcium deficiency. It's normal to have white spots. It has no link to calcium deficiency. It is said that brittle nails cannot be treated. No, it can be treated. Nail is a sign of our nutrition. So if you're doing a crash dieting and all, you can have brittle nails and that can be improved with adequate nutrition. Now, a word about skin over the genitalia, because there is a misconception that you need separate products, for your genitalia. So you can use a normal soap and moisturizer. Vaginal douches and washes should not be used. Vaginal discharge is not normal and it should be treated. So caution note about home remedies. So we all have the habit of, using various products like, aloe vera gel, turmeric, etc. So aloe vera gel is good to use. That's okay. I can't tell you the products which are good to use and which are not. I just want to advise a word of caution here that it is a misconception that these cannot burn your skin, these cannot irritate your skin. If you have a sensitive skin, you should not be using it. It is okay to use this if it has been tested on your skin. It is okay to use it in moderation, but please don't use it aggressively, excessively, vigorously. People can have burns even after use of turmeric. And also, I wanted to mention here, whenever you're using bleaching products, like you're bleaching your face, please remember these have ammonia and peroxides. So these can be damaging to your face. So going to the parlor to have a fair skin and getting a bleach done is not recommended, because bleach is for your hair, and bleach stays, the effect of bleach lasts for some time. So if you go and get a bleach done to have a fair skin, please don't do that, because it is strong, and less frequent use is still okay. And if you want the fairness, then please don't go for the bleach. So the take home message is, beautiful skin is a sign of healthy body and mind. I believe more of healthy mind. If you have good thoughts, then definitely your skin glows. Skincare is simple and doesn't need expensive products. Do not fall for marketing gimmicks while buying products. Always read the labels mentioned on products. Do not expect magical results. Benefit is seen after consistent use. Do not self-treat various conditions. Home remedies should be used with precaution. And like someone said, no one said, I regret taking such good care of my skin. Said no one ever. So please, you will never regret taking good care of your skin. And with that, I thank you all for listening to me. Healthy body and mind. Please drink lots of water, eat natural foods, think positive, exercise daily, and sleep well. And that is what this group is all about. Thank you so much.
It was amazing talk, Dr. Pooja. The power of a talk or the power of a speaker is that the moment somebody logs in, they stay. And all of your audience, anybody who has logged in, they have stayed up till now. So this just indicates how you grabbed the attention of people, and they were just spellbound by the amount of information and the way you have presented your information. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words. I hope it was helpful and people will keep all this in mind. There are many things to discuss, but this was the basic we can do for the skin.
Right. So there is still a number of questions in like all of our minds. So I'll start with few of them. So first of all, are like the hard the exfoliation. He also suggested that is it like okay that if we exfoliate the skin, or is it like harsh for our skin?
Yeah. So exfoliation can be mechanical or it can be chemical.
Skin specialist.
Mechanical
Brig.
Yeah. Mechanical exfoliation is when you use a scrub or you use for your feet, you use.
Yes, just give me. Just give me.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
So exfoliation is of two types. It can be mechanical or chemical. Mechanical is the one using a scrub on your face or using those tools for your feet. And chemical is like using hydroxy acids and retinoids for your skin. So exfoliation is not at all indicated for dry skin. Dry skin is close to a sensitive skin. It's already dry. You don't need to scrub it to remove the dead cells. And anyways, dead cells shed on their own. You don't need to go for the excessive exfoliation. So people with oily skin may go ahead with it just for a cleansing kind of a thing once in a week with a mild, gentle kind of a scrub. but everybody doesn't need to go for it.
Right. So somebody has asked, Shruti has asked that her skin is oily and sensitive and acne prone. Can you please tell us a good sunscreen for her?
Okay, so you should go for products that are non-comedogenic and hypoallergenic. So you have an oily skin, the base of a sunscreen is important. I don't know if I can reveal brand names here. Ethically, I shouldn't be doing that. But if you really have acne, you will need to see a dermatologist, and a dermatologist can prescribe you a medicated product. But if you go for non-medicated market products, please go for non-comedogenic products and gel-based. Use a gel instead of a cream for a sunscreen.
Right. Yogita, I'll speak out your question. So Yogita wants to understand whether the sunscreen contains any chemicals which are carcinogenic or cancer causing, and if they have any harmful effects in the long run.
So sunscreens, if you go for medicated ones, see, I don't have much knowledge about the market products. There are too many. They don't reveal what they contain. Many don't. They will just show the labels partially. So you don't exactly know what you're using. So what we doctors recommend are the medicated ones, which will have the ingredients label on them. So the medicated ones are non-carcinogenic, and that doesn't mean that the marketed ones are comedogenic. It just shows that you know of the ingredients. Okay, and all these products which I mentioned, all these ingredients which I mentioned, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, these are inert. If you're very apprehensive, go for physical. So physical will not absorb into your skin. It will just act as a physical layer and block. So if you are apprehensive about all these things, so go for a physical sunscreen containing zinc oxide, titanium dioxide and all.
Sarbani again wants to know what is the role of exfoliation and how often can it be done? So especially you said in an oily skin, not for a dry skin, right? So
once in a week is good enough, not more than that.
right. Geetu wants to know is vitamin C serum is recommended to be applied on the daily basis, and if it is actually good for skin or not, and how many times in a day?
Okay. See, the problem with vitamin C is like it is very good for the skin, no doubt about it. It is an antioxidant, very good antioxidant. It helps in repairing the skin. But vitamin C preparations, they are not stable. So a good vitamin C preparation, which stays stable at room temperature, is expensive. So if you go for genuine products, these will be expensive. And I'll suggest you get these prescribed by a dermatologist who will give you genuine advice, and don't go for the products, like, Olay and all 7 signs of aging containing this, because these may not contain adequate amount and these may not be stable at room temperature. A good vitamin C product is definitely expensive. It is good to use, but if you have good vitamin C in your diet and you are not very okay with using a daily serum, then also it's okay. As long as you are using a sunscreen and a moisturizer and cleanser.
Some Arushi wants to understand a remedy for acne in a teenager. So if there is something they can do on their own. In teenagers, they are acne prone. So what
Yeah,
can
that's very common. They have the growth spurt. Kids have the growth spurt around this age, and they do get acne. Almost all of them will get acne. So I will not recommend using creams or home remedies on your own, because these can themselves irritate your skin. Doctors will advise you products containing clindamycin or benzoyl peroxide, which are safer for the skin. So clindamycin, nadifloxacin, these are antibiotic gels that can be used. And if there is a moderate acne, like it's more than mild, so then they may require oral treatment in the form of oral antibiotics. So it's important to treat this acne because it can cause scarring. And once scarring happens in the skin, it's very difficult to treat. Then you can't treat it with creams. You have to go in for surgical procedures. So treating acne scarring is very difficult. Preventing it is easier. So you must treat it and take a consultation.
right? Again, Sarmani wants to understand if there is any actual need of collagen-based creams, and Another question she wants to understand is if there are any actual chemical-free hair dyes. So collagen-based creams. So any truth about it? I mean, do we need?
Yeah, they all do contain anti-aging. They will mention collagen and all. And when you go for these products, please take consultation. I'll recommend that because it's very easy searching on YouTube, searching on Google, and then buying a product. But it won't contain that actual chemical or the actual molecule that will penetrate your skin. It has to penetrate to your skin, into your skin to act. So that only a doctor would know, and a medicated product uh, that you should go, not like somebody has recommended you, your friend has told you about it and you saw a YouTube video. Don't go for it, please. So as long as I said, you're taking care in the form of sunscreen, moisturizers, you don't need to go for these. And if you actually have wrinkles and you want to get rid of wrinkles, then uh, this collagen creams won't work. You need to go for treatment for that.
Right. So Dr. Gudesar, she's a gynecologist and she's joined the session. And she wants to understand what skincare regime changes should be done 1 week before and after travel, and especially for those who are using pigmentation agents and treatments.
Pigmentation treatments.
Probably she means if they're taking hyper.
So whenever you are traveling, definitely the amount of sun exposure is more. And if you're going to the mountains or on the beaches, the sun exposure will be more. In mountains, you have direct sun rays, and beach, as I said, water reflects more of these damaging rays. So adequate sun protection is the number one point. And again, if you're using pigmentation products, using products and treatment for pigmentation won't work if you're practicing sun protection. So if you have undergone a peeling session and you are about to travel in next few days, you shouldn't be doing that, because a peeling session will rather be harmful for you, because you'll be traveling and there'll be more of sun exposure. So people who are taking treatment, just keep one thing in mind: sun protection.
Right. So again, a lot of people have been complaining about post-COVID hair fall. This is, even though doesn't come directly into the skincare, but then since the COVID, in this particular month, June and July and August, everybody is complaining about anybody who has had COVID or did not have COVID are complaining about significant hair fall.
Yeah.
So, and they are all of them are concerned. They are asking for hair serums. I'm a neurologist. They're asking me for hair serums. And
I know. I can understand, because there have been so many patients. You know, what is this phenomenon called? It is telogen effluvium. And it is not, particularly specific to COVID. Any acute illness, any acute stress, surgery, pregnancy, like you have childbirth. So everybody knows after childbirth, after a delivery, after 2 to 3 months, you'll start losing the hair. What happens is your hair enter into the telogen, that is the shedding phase. So when you have this acute illness, they are, prematurely, they enter this shedding phase. So even emotional stress, if there's an acute emotional stress, so approximately 6 weeks later, you will have that intense episode of hair fall. But the good news is that these hair you will recover. This is a cycle. All the hair that have entered telogen and are shed will enter again into the regrowing phase, that is the anagen phase. So this hair fall lasts for around 2 months, 2 to 3 months maximum. So all those who had COVID in the second wave, including me, like I got in April. So June onwards, I started having a massive hair fall, and then it has stopped now. So if it is excessive, you can consult a doctor, a dermatologist, because then there might be other causes, because it should stop. If it is not stopped after 2 to 3 months, then there may be other causes, like thyroid disorder, a deficiency that is there, and iron deficiency, ferritin deficiency, even hormonal imbalance. So as far as if these things are ruled out, then telogen effluvium post COVID will recover on its own.
Right. And is there any role of biotin supplementation in these cases?
There is no, I should have mentioned it. It was a very valid, very important point, and I don't know how I forgot about it. There is no role of biotin in hair regrowth. It is such a big, marketing tactic that if I speak about it and if you put it on YouTube, people will, sue me for saying this, because somebody somehow proposed that biotin helps hair loss, and it just started, the mad rush started about prescribing biotin. There is no study that has shown that biotin deficiency causes hair. Biotin deficiency does cause hair loss, but there is no study that will show you that biotin deficiency without other signs and just manifesting as hair loss, it is not common. If you're having an adequate diet, you won't have biotin deficiency. And if you have biotin deficiency, you will have other signs. It is not just hair loss. So if your doctor is, if you are taking biotin tablets on your own, it is not needed. It is a water soluble vitamin. Okay, it won't be harmful. But please remember, when you go for lab test, there are kits that use the biotin, Avidase and all, your blood biotin levels will interfere with the interpretation of reports. Even people troponin, the estimation, you will have a false value, and MI may not be diagnosed because you are taking biotin and you didn't tell your doctor and you went in for a test and all. Please remember, there is no need of taking biotin. What is helpful is amino acids in your hair supplements. So there are few formulations that have biotin also, but they have amino acids also, sulfur containing, and also that is still good to take if you're not having a good diet, routine diet.
Right. One more question, and I think that should be our last question. So a lot of people are going in for hair rebonding because they feel their hairs are not like straight or smooth, and keratin treatments. So are they okay, or are there any particular side effects that we should take care of?
See, even I have got it done. So let me be honest. So I can, expect that the non-medical people to fall for it. So once in a while, it's okay, but it shouldn't be frequent because it definitely damages the hair. The amount of chemical is reduced as you go from hair straightening, rebonding to smoothening and to keratin therapy. And nowadays you have hair Botox. So one needs to be very careful on what products are being used. So you have to be very vigilant about that. So if they are, all these harsh chemicals that are penetrating your hair and relaxing the bonds, so these will be harmful for your hair. And once in a while is still okay, but going for it frequently, कि एक season आया, next season I again go for it because my hair is appearing frizzy. No, use a conditioner, go for natural things, and that's good. And nowadays you have the cold iron, this curling rods. I don't have one, but I'm thinking of looking into it instead of the hot ones. That is less damaging.
Okay, right. So I think that has sorted out all the queries, right? And it was amazing talking to you. It was a very fruitful Sunday for all of us. We are learning so much from you, and I'm hoping that we again have a talk with you on some other topic, whichever like you are able to guide us on. I can ask the audience. And
most welcome.
It was
a pleasure.
I think everybody enjoyed the talk. And with this, Pooja, thank you again. Thank you so much. Have a very wonderful Sunday to you and to everyone.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, everyone. Good day to you all.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, to join. Thank you so much.